Knock it off. It's known to do that. We'll be changing that. You guys will ask good job. Martial law was the best deal around. Notice this?
Ladies and gentlemen, as it's the hour is 6:30 and time to start our first meeting of the General Plan Committee, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if everyone will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Normally at these meetings at this time we'll take roll call, but since it's our first meeting, I'd just like to go around the table and have our committee members stand and tell us your name and what neighborhood you're from or what business you're associated with. Can we start down on this end?
Oh, I've got my mouth full. How appropriate. My name is Todd Tupper. I'm with Sun MP.
Jessica Rosenberg, Canyon Trails.
Ted Ingles, Pebble Creek.
Debbie Robinson, Estrella Mountain.
Peter Klein, Canyon Trails.
Brandon Hampton, Cerville Paseo.
Kathleen Maloney, Pebble Creek.
David Wilson, Pebble Creek. George Quinnett, I'm a landowner, a couple different parcels. Here, I'm with the Pete Crew.
Chuck Watson, North Subdivisions.
Green Creek, Canyon Trails.
Tony Wadowski, Palm Valley, as well as local business owner with Edward Jones.
Jerry Wilson, I'm with Centera.
Estelle Beswick, Pebble Creek.
Sharon A. Palm Valley.
Dave Moriucci, Pebble Creek.
Jose Kuzmic, Cantamilla.
Ben Ely, Historic Goodyear.
Mark Pelletier, Pebble Creek.
All right, Steve Kirk, Pebble Creek, and architect.
Jeff Classy, Wildfire Ranch.
Darren Lozano, Palm Valley.
Very good. We have a diverse group of people here. I think this will be an enjoyable committee to work on the next 18 months. Next, I'd like to introduce someone we all know, Mayor Georgia Lord.
Got a fine job there. I don't need this, right? Where's my mic? I think I'm mic here. Well, first of all, I want to welcome each and every one of you. I want to thank you for dedicating what you're going to do today is your time and effort for our community. And so I hail you all. The general plan has to be created by the community. That's you. Because you served. This is the purpose of creating the General Plan Committee, to allow residents and other community members oversee every aspect of creating this general plan. The General Plan Committee purpose is to advise council, myself and council, on matters relating to the general plan. The committee is the council, the direct link, each one of you, to my team members on the council. I'm really excited for you. I have to tell you, I see Leslie Dornfield here. I see Todd Tupper. I see Schmidt there. I feel like I'm back in the city center there. I don't know if you know that, but I chaired the city center. It was much like this. We worked on that for years. And so I just envy you, because it is really exciting what you're going to be doing. I don't know if you know it, but we have doubled the size since the last general plan update, surpassing the 50,000 population, and we're almost at 70,000 now. Not only does this mean we have a number of changes, and what's going to be interesting, additional requirements. That means at least half of our residents were not part of the general plan update. Can you believe that? When it was presented to our citizens before. In fact, according to the regional planners, Goodyear is expected to double in size again by 2025. And many of you are looking around the table, probably gonna be here in 2025. So you can see how important this general plan update will be for the city. We're gonna use your knowledge, your creativity, and your sacrifice of time and your talents, and you're going to be dedicating this to the welfare of Goodyear. You're gonna shape Goodyear's future. The other thing you have to think about, you're now part of history, because your name will forever be linked to the growth and the development of our city. Your name will be written down in the records, and that means something. Someday you can look back on this, especially if you're here for the next general plan after this one. So, before I leave, I just thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up and tell you congratulations and wish you the best, and I know you're going to do this. I understand from the committee they picked some really great people to partake in this, so I thank all of you. But before I say my farewell, I'd like to introduce the council members that are there. We have Wally Campbell, Sherry Loretano, Bill Pizzillo. And much like we work on the council, it's team play. You may have moments you're going to agree to disagree, and that's good. And you will have to make compromises, and you will have to lean one way or the other when somebody presents an idea, so it's a real challenge for you. But I know you're up to doing it. And Chuck, you're an angel for taking this. We really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
So good luck, and I'll be checking on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, as this is the first meeting of the General Plan Committee, why don't we have any members of the audience introduce themselves that would like to?
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't finish, and how terrible of me. Do I still have the list? I was supposed to introduce the commissioners, right? Oh,
You have the floor, Mayor.
Yeah, and I interrupted everybody, typical self. Now you know how hard I am to live with on the council. But my job was to introduce the planning and zoning commissioners who are in attendance. So please, Leslie Miller, you stand. Please. Vicki Hamilton. Now you see, when you make a mistake, don't feel guilty. Your mayor did that tonight, so you have one on you. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. Would any other audience members like to introduce themselves? Okay.
Dick Wilson, Florida Property landowner. I'm John Glenning with Stella Blair.
Very good. Welcome. This is an open call to the public to give an opportunity to the public to address the Goodyear 2025 General Plan Committee on an item listed on today's agenda or a subject that's not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Please complete a speaker card listing the subject you'd like to discuss. Unless otherwise permitted by the chair, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Before you begin to speak, identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and address. At this time, I would like to introduce the City Clerk, Maureen Scott, who will give us a presentation on open meeting law.
Tonight I'm going to give you a presentation on the open meeting law. It's a very brief presentation, but I'm going to cover a lot of information. And it's not to scare you, it's just to have you be aware of what the open meeting law is all about. So why do we have an open meeting law? Who must comply? What is a meeting? What is required? And where do I turn for information? We're going to cover these items tonight. So why do we have this law? It's to protect the public, avoid decision-making in secret, to protect public officials, maintain integrity of government, build trust between the government and the citizens, and it helps keep the citizens informed. So all meetings for public bodies have to be in the public. Public has to be able to come to these meetings. So the General Plan Committee is a committee that was appointed by council, so it is a public body. So who must comply? All public bodies must comply to the open meeting law. You have all your different you have your city council meetings, your youth commission, planning and zoning. We have probably about at least 10 different types of commissions, committees, and boards. And of course, all of you, which is the General Plan Committee. We're going to be adding another one soon, which is the Parks and Rec Committee, which will have about 9 people on that one also. So there's a lot of different committees, and all of these committees and commissions and boards must comply with the open meeting law. So a meeting is a gathering of members making a quorum, which is a majority of your committee. So for your committee, 13 members is a quorum. So what that means is when you have your meetings, you have to have at least 13 people here to hold your meeting. If you don't have 13 people here, then you're not going to be able to hold your meeting. So it's very important to go ahead and make sure that you're able to attend as many meetings as you can so that those meetings can be held. But what if you're at a social event? What if you're at a seminar with other committee members? This is a little bit different situation than a public meeting. What happens in this situation is we call it a quorum posting. So if some of you members are getting together to attend a seminar, or maybe you're going to have a party at a house and you're getting together with other committee members, we need to post that as a quorum. So what you'll need to do is let Katie know if you're going to have an event where you're going to be getting together with other committee members. The reason why we do this is to protect you, because the event is going to say no action will be taken. We have on our website and on our, we have an official posting board at City Hall. I don't know if you are aware of it, but for statute purposes, we have to post all agendas, and we have to post the quorum posting. So it's on the outside of City Hall. As you walk in, it's on the right-hand side. And we have to post all that, and also we post it on the website. So what it entails is we have to know what the event is, where it's located, what the date and time is, and then that protects you if you're at this event. But you can't talk about business. You can't talk about any general plan business with any of your committee members. It's just saying, hey, we're together. This is a social event, or this is a different type of seminar, and we're not taking any business. Okay, so it's very important that you let Katie know if you're going to be attending those events, that we can get it on the website. It's also very important to make sure that when you're outside of the public meetings, to not discuss business with other committee members, because that could be a violation of the open meeting law. So be very careful when you're out talking with other people in your committee. Don't talk about business. Okay? Just be very careful and be aware of what you're discussing with other committee members. So the open meeting law requires 3 things. Advance notice, which means that you have to have your agendas all posted at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. And that's so that we can get the information out to the public if they want to attend, because again, everybody can attend these meetings. So that's the first thing. All meeting agendas have to be posted at least 24 hours in advance. Again, we put it on our website, and then we also put it on our official posting board at City Hall. The next thing is the agenda, and that has to be posted 24 hours in advance. And then, of course, there's minutes. And the minutes require let me go back to the agenda, sorry. On the agenda, anything that's on the agenda can be discussed, and it has to be very specific. If it's not specific, it's not good enough. It has to explain exactly what you're going to talk about. If it's not on the agenda, then it can't be discussed. And then if it's amended, for example, say something changed, someone wanted to be added to speak that night or a presentation. That also has to be amended in that before the 24 hours before the meeting is held. So if it's 10 hours before the meeting, sorry, can't do it, can't change it. But as long as it's at least 24 hours in advance, the agendas can be amended. Again, posted at City Hall, posted on the website. So staff is taking minutes tonight. The first thing, of course, you want to make sure that you have a quorum, and you do, so you can hold your meeting. And staff is taking minutes, and she's going to take any action items. For example, if you're going to take a vote on something, she's going to write down who made the motion, who made the second, how many voted in favor, how many voted against, and that is all going to go in the minutes. She also puts on in the minutes who's talking that night, any presenters, any discussion on what's going on, that will go in the minutes. And then within 3 days, those minutes have to go up on the website as draft minutes. When you have your next meeting in a month, you'll probably be approving those set of minutes. So once you approve the minutes, then those become official, final, approved minutes, and they have the signed, they're both signed, and I require 2 copies of those. And then what happens is one becomes a permanent record in our office, in the city clerk's office, and the other one has to go to the State Archives and Records Office, where they keep that also. So once they're finally approved minutes, then those become permanent records. Okay, this is a biggie. Email. But first of all, I want to read you something about just with committee members. Committee members can discuss their views with the public outside of an open meeting as long as the communication is not principally directed at or directly given to other committee members, and there is no plan to engage in collective deliberation to take legal action. So as far as email communication, it's the same thing. You want to be very careful what you're emailing. You don't want to be emailing back and forth. So I want to go through these because the email communication is very important. And you really want to be aware of, while you start getting into this process, of how you're communicating with your committee members. So email communications are treated the same as any other form of communication between committee members. Emails exchanged among a quorum of the committee that involves discussion, deliberations, or taking legal action on matters that may come before the committee constitutes a meeting and thus violates the open meeting law. A unilateral email from one committee member to a quorum of the other committee members that provides information and opinion would not violate the open meeting law, provided the member does not propose legal action and the other committee members do not respond to the email. Serial emails between committee members that make up a quorum of the committee on a subject that may come before the committee for legal action violates the open meeting law. Emails from third parties to a quorum of the committee would not violate the open meeting law, provided that the committee member does not reply all if responding back to the third party. And then an email request for information from a committee member to staff does not violate the open meeting law, even if other committee members are copied on the email and the response from the staff person. However, the committee members may not engage in I can't even read this, discussions or share opinions via email or by other forms of communication related to the information provided outside of the public meeting. An email communication to committee members related to their official duties are public records, and they must be maintained for public reproduction and inspection. So just make sure you're very careful when you're corresponding in email. Just make sure you're aware of what you're sending, okay? Here's some areas where you can find the information. You can find them in the Arizona Revised Statutes in 38-431 to 38-43109. City Council, legal, county attorney, state attorney general, and the Arizona Ombudsman. That website also has information. I have printed out a whole booklet from their office that has all the information detailed about the open meeting law. All right, so the public's rights. Of course, again, like I said earlier, they have to be able to attend the meetings. It's open to the public. And they can speak. Now, on your agenda, as you saw tonight, the chairman asked if anybody wanted to speak from the public. as long as it's on this agenda, then the public is able to speak. And again, they put a time frame on there of 3 minutes. So tonight they could. Now, if you decide in a month that you don't want public to speak, then that's okay. But since it was on the agenda tonight, then the public is able to speak, okay? And you just want to be careful. There's 3 things when the public speaks. You really can't answer their questions. You have to, if they have something they want, a matter to be discussed, then they can add that to the next agenda, and they can direct it to staff on a specific matter, and any responded criticism. But that's very limited on what you can all talk about once a person from the public comes in to speak. And this is just a reminder, just make sure that all the meetings are conducted in public. I did not mention there is an option to go into executive session that it has to be addressed on the agenda, where if you're talking about something that there's, that the public shouldn't be involved with, then you would go into E-session and then it would be closed off to the public. But that's the only time that you can close it up, for the public. Let's see, and you got to make sure that you have your quorum of members in order to hold the meetings. And again, the agendas need to be posted 24 hours in advance. And again, on agendas, you can only discuss what's on the agendas that night. So don't veer off tonight, and make sure you stay with the piece of paper. And there's violations. It's $500 for each violation. It's a civil penalty if you get a violation for the open meeting law. Not to scare you or anything, but it's just to have you be aware. Are there any questions about this? No? Well, thank you for your time. I hope it was just kind of enlightened you on.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I do have a question. I'm George Quineff. If you have 1 or 2 committee members or 2 people and you're having a discussion about something other than the committee, you don't have to give a notice or anything that I mean, I thought it had to be 13 people or more. If you send an individual email to somebody.
No, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But can you send it to 2 people? I mean, is there a number?
As long as they're not responding with any opinions back and forth, that's where you want to be very careful. If you want to just send them information about something, that's fine. But if you're putting opinions in there on what you're thinking, that's not very good, because that could get back to the committee. So that's why you don't want to. You can set up, if you're saying, hey, are you going to be at the committee meeting tonight, and I'll see you there, or just something very general. But if you're saying, I think we should be doing this about this particular, you want to be very careful of that. Does that help?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And then the quorum, it's very, for the special events, or if you go into a seminar, you just want to be very careful with that. If only, 2 or 3 of you are going, you may not need to do a quorum, but it just protects you. Say someone else shows up, and you just never know. So if it's something that committee might attend, it's just safer to put it on the committee, the quorum posting, just to protect you. So, is there any questions on the quorums?
Not only quorums, but we're supposed to be also ambassadors to our neighborhoods. If we go back to our neighborhood and we have with the members of our the place we live, we share some information. Do we have limitations? Are you saying?
No, I don't think so. As long as you're not talking with other committee members, you can go and share the information
Freely.
Yeah.
And,
with your neighborhoods.
right, and to hear
You
their
don't want to talk amongst
opinions.
yourself, trying to make decisions or any type of action amongst yourselves.
Can I give an example, like a more specific example? Say some of you find some great information, like I was just at this meeting and they were talking that, the city of Scottsdale did this great thing and, hey, you guys should all read this. That's okay. You're just saying there's this piece of information out there. I found it. If you start saying, I don't like what we discussed at the meeting last night, I think we should talk about that again and take, reverse our decision. That's trying to make decisions outside of the group. So, I mean, does that kind of make sense? That if you're finding information out there, hey, I just went to my HOA meeting and they brought up this issue and I don't think, we should discuss that at the next meeting. Those are the kind of things we want to hear from you, but it's just when you start saying an idea is good or bad, that's when you're getting into trouble.
And it doesn't matter the number of people who talk. It could be 1 to 25. It just matter. It doesn't matter, right? It's all the same. Yeah, I mean, within this group, if I talk to one other person outside of here about business, that's inappropriate.
I guess I'm still not sure on the quorum call with people just happening to be together. We have a number of instances here where there are multiple people from a community. Ted and I from Pebble Creek, we are on a committee there that handles something to do with the HOA.
And it's only two of you? Or is there
Well,
more?
in this instance, there's only two of us, but I'm using that as an example.
Yeah, and that's an excellent example. I think for that matter, I don't think you would need to post it. It's when you get higher up into the numbers, getting closer to that majority
Okay.
quorum. So otherwise, you might be on other several committees and you're going to be posting
Well, that's what I'm
other
saying.
things. So I'd be very careful. So go ahead.
One thing too is I'll be watching for that. I mean, I know a lot of the things going on. I'm going to make sure that the Gain Community Festival's posted. Because I know that there's going to be a lot of you attending that festival, and we're going to have a booth, and you might all happen to stop by at the same time. When there's big events like that I know are going on, I'm going to make sure those get posted. If I hear about meetings that are related to what we're doing, and I think a bunch of you might show up, I'll get those posted, and I'll let you know when those are being posted, and I'll try and stay on top of that for the group.
Maureen, a little further clarification. So there's a number of us that live in similar communities, Canyon Trails, Pebble Creek, wherever. So it may be incumbent upon us, or we may want to, Mark and I and some of the other Pebble Creek people, for example, to communicate back to the Pebble Creek community a status report. That's okay. Is that correct?
As long as you're sharing it with the community.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in that instance, if it's more than 3 or 4 of you going to this particular, if it's an event of some kind, if you have some type of Pebble Creek event that you're going to go speak to, you might want to maybe put that as a forum. It just depends on what the situation, what kind of event it is, and if anybody else is going to go. So just
But isn't a quorum 14 people? So if it's just
it's only
4 of
3 or
us,
4, yeah.
so that's not a quorum.
No, it's not a quorum. It's just, I guess I'm a little on the safe side, so that's why. You know you're going to have a committee or a type of event, and you think there are other people that are going to show up, then it's just safer to go ahead and post it. But you should be fine with that. I kind of lean on the safe side. So. Any other questions? And you can always call Katie too. She's, if you have any questions on any events that you're attending, so she can help you with that. She's a good contact person. You can always call me too. Anything else?
So if we go on a break here, then we can't talk about it, right? Anything?
You're a lawyer, you're doing it today, so.
So if we're in a meeting setting, we can talk. But
Thank you, Maureen.
yeah, I know.
If we're on a break,
I'm sure that's crystal clear. And I guess the main thing to remember is we're all ambassadors for this plan, for the general plan, and for this committee. So it's okay to talk to your neighbors and stuff. Let's just try not to meet outside the committee setting and discuss business. That's the safest way to protect it. Next, I would like to introduce Leslie Dornfeld, and she's going to introduce us to the General Plan Committee procedures.
Hi, I'm Leslie, and I'm going to help you. I'm your facilitator for the next 12 to 14 months. And so I just want to start out by saying it was great to meet you at the council introduction. It's better to meet you now as we go through this process together. I really look forward to getting to work with all of you. Tonight, my job is really rather limited. We've got a great chair, and we've got a couple of exercises to just get you to know one another. But as we move through the process, and as you look through, I think it's in your first section, you see that schedule of all the topics you'll be addressing on the general plan. My job is to help encourage that discussion and support you to have that discussion. My job's not to push you in one direction or another, to that's really going to just talk about the general plan committee, so to speak, or your book is Katie, and she's going to go through that. But I, as your facilitator, just want to get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way. And then after Katie goes through that book, we're going to talk a little bit about creating rules. Come on in, grab a seat, grab your name tag on the table, lunch is in the back. What we're going to really just talk a little bit about is how we as a committee work together and how we talk. So for this little segment, it's going to be me, Katie, and then all of us chatting a little bit. And then I think we'll have Chuck maybe lead that discussion and start it out. And if it's not happening, I'll put it in. A couple things I just wanted to encourage you to do as we sort of move now into the real work of doing the committee, being on the committee. You all have mics. And I don't know that we're recording tonight, but it would help if you could talk into the mic. And one helps the audience here, but also once we start recording these meetings, and these meetings will be recorded, sorry, I needed to say if I needed to say it better. That'll help the recording of the meetings be clear. We want to record the meetings not so we can hold your feet to the fire, but we want the community as much as possible to be engaged in this process. And so our hope is to maybe take some of these recordings, maybe put them on the web, make them as accessible to the community as possible. Because our goal is transparency. Maureen talked about, we want to be public, we want to be transparent. So if someone says, why did they decide that? Well, they can get on the web and figure it out. They can look at the film. Another thing I wanted to just ask you, and this is sort of your first discussion item real quick, is about a meeting time. This isn't really a legal discussion, it's an operational discussion. But is 6 o'clock a better time or a worse time? Do we want to start at 6:30 so that you guys can go home and have dinner? Does anybody have any feelings on that? And at this point, I think we might be leaning more towards 6 to get you home early. But if you'd rather go home first and eat, anybody have an opinion?
6:30 is good.
6:30, you like the 6:30? Anybody not happy with that 6:30? If they're putting you on the spot, that seemed to work for everybody? Okay, good. We'll
Can
stick with 6:30 then.
Can I jump in? We will have food every meeting. It might not be quite the spread, but
Yeah, I mean, we can also start at 6 and you guys can eat and we can start the meeting because we know your time is valuable. So if you don't mind meeting while we eat, we're good.
That's better.
That's
So
better.
6 o'clock, meet while we eat?
Yep. 6:30.
Okay. Congratulations, you guys just did your first consensus.
No, I say 6:30 still.
I agree.
I'll be late.
You will be late.
Yeah,
Let me ask you something. Is it 6:15? Would that help?
that'd be better.
Okay, can we live
But
with 6:15?
I'll still be walking in a little late possibly.
If you're okay with it, I think we'd rather than stay at 6:30, if that's okay with everyone, because it's important that we start with everyone here. And I don't think it's fair that we sort of nail you, so.
But I'm just one person.
No, but you're part of it. So we're all here. Okay, so we'll stick with 6:30. But we'll start at 6:30 and we'll just eat at 6:30, so you don't need to come at 6 to eat. Okay? Stay at home and we'll just start at 6:30, bring your food to the table, and we'll rock and roll. That way we can make the best use of your time. The other kinds of things I'd like to do is just introduce, there's a lot of people here that are city staff that you may or may not know, you may see in other meetings. I'm pretty much a talking head, but there are people here that have just made all of this work. And so I'm going to ask all of the city staff to just quickly stand up and say, so what you guys have, sorry, Joe, look at me, you don't want to stand up and let's just everybody go through and let's go. Quick.
Bobby Fulbright, Development Services Administrator.
Rosa Sano, intern. Joe Schmitz, planning manager.
You all know Maureen.
I'm Katie Wilkin. I'm Planner 3. I'm your staff.
Matt Glory, assistant to the city council. Brett Birmingham, I'm a planner.
Okay, we've met the planning commission, so that's good. And I just want you to know, Brett, tonight will have a very important role, but it's going to stay secret. So you might want to buddy up to him. A couple of other quick things. I just want you to know that the agenda, Maureen talked a little bit about the agenda. The way it works is the chair sets the agenda. But in respect for the chair's time, Katie really works closely with the chair. She's the staff on the committee. So if there are ideas or things that you think should be brought up, or for example, a film that you see, that you say, oh my gosh, we have to put a clip of this at the committee, or a really important topic, let's say Green Street, you want to have a discussion on Green Streets at the committee. All those kinds of ideas, give those to Katie, and Katie will then take that packet of ideas and we'll set the agenda with the So now I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to hand it over to Kate to go through the book, and then I'll come back and do our
I've got a couple of items for business too. What Leslie is passing out to you is a volunteer form. I know you guys have signed so many forms just to get on this committee, but this volunteer form is going to sign you up officially as a volunteer, and so you're going to get invited to our volunteer thank you dinner in April, and there's other benefits to being a volunteer. When you came into the meeting and I had all those sign-in sheets, I had a special sign-in sheet for General Plan Committee members. It lists all your names, and all you have to do is check mark, I'm here. And you'll see a column that says volunteer hours. If you spend time outside of the meeting reviewing the agendas, reading through things, you don't have to track this by 15 minutes increments. I don't want you guys to spend time tracking your time, but just take a best guess of how much time you spend. And basically that just allows us to track how much time you guys are putting into this project. And you just write it on the form. I'm going to take care of figuring out how much time we spend in these meetings. And then at the end of this, we'll be able to tell you just how much time you put into this project. So that's going to help us out a lot. And like I said, you don't have to fill out your name on those long sign-in sheets every meeting. Just check mark you're here. So then, now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to go through your binders and let you know what's in this binder. And for those of you in the audience, you have a few of the most important items in your little agenda packet if you grabbed a packet. And so right on the inside flap should be my card, like Leslie said. And I sent several emails over the last few weeks. I think I sent at least three emails to everybody. So if somebody did not receive an email from me, let me know. I have everyone's email list here so we can double check your email together and make sure that I have the correct email list, because copying over from your application form, sometimes there's mistakes, so please come see me. In tab number 1, and we're going to be going over this later when we kind of talk about the general plan process, but we've got the process here, very first thing, and it's basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to be getting several different versions of these as we go along, and you can see where some of it just says discussion topic. We'll be telling you what that topic is later on. But some of that we're going to be deciding tonight. The next thing you'll see here, this is something else I'm going to go over later, but it's a schedule of how we have a couple other master planning processes going on. Yours is black and white, sorry. And it's just how this process fits in with the transportation master plan and the parks master plan that are going on at the same time. Finally, the third sheet is kind of our public meeting calendar. I just circled all the dates of your meetings. It's in a blue circle. And then the big public meetings that we know about so far, we've called those out. And you can see we even have all the way till November 2014, when we will hopefully be ratifying a plan that you all move forward to the City Council. So then tab number 2 is it's kind of the charge. This is straight out of your bylaws. And it tells you what your duties and responsibilities are as the General Plan Committee and kind of what your purpose is. So I'm not going to read these to you. You can read them on your own and kind of see what you're supposed to be doing as committee members. And if you look through this and see something that, remind me if I'm forgetting that some of these things are your responsibilities. The next page is just, we put together some meeting terminology. I understand some of you, this is the first committee you've ever been on, so we just put some information together just so that we're all on the same page of what some of everything means. The next page is a page I'm going to want to go through a few points with you. And these are your duties. Basically, this is stuff in the bylaws that I wanted to specifically call out that you're responsible for. And the second bullet point you'll see, 2 successive unexcused or unexplained absences or 4 total absences could be grounds for removal from the committee. If you think you're not going to be able to make a meeting, email me or call me and let me know. There are a couple people who aren't here tonight. They told me ahead of time that they weren't going to be here. Then we can formally excuse you from the meeting. If you don't tell us ahead of time and we don't know where you are, it could be an unexcused absence. And again, this isn't to make any kind of threat. It's just that if somebody's not coming to the meetings, they're not going to be able to keep pace with us because we're going to be moving really fast once we get going into the general plan meeting. So it just allows us that if somebody drops off the face of the earth, we can replace them if we need to and keep the committee going. Just the third bullet point is real quick, that 75% of the members must be Goodyear residents. We're well in conformance of that right now, but if some of you ever move, but you're still part of the Goodyear community and want to be part of the committee, it's possible you can still be part of the committee, so just come talk to me if you're ever in that circumstance. And then you can read through the rest. I don't want to go through each and every one of them with you. If anyone has any questions about any of these, let me know. The next tab is just a list of everybody, so everyone knows everybody else's names. Then tab 5 is just for your benefit. It's the city's organizational chart. And I also provided you a list of the city council members and the planning and zoning commission members, just to remind you that this body does advise both the planning and zoning commission and the city council, so you know who those people are. The next tab, tab 6. This is a big book, and we'll be talking about this later. But these are the Arizona Growing Smarter Guiding Principles. And so basically we have I'm going to go into this in more detail later, but we have a general plan because it's required by state statute. And these are the guiding principles to how that state statute was created. It was called the Growing Smarter legislation that adopted what elements we have to have in the plan and how we do it. And so this is basically the state talking to us and telling us what they think we should be paying attention to as we create the plan. And you'll have a yellow sticky that kind of lets you flip. And everyone in the audience has this page, but there's a flow chart, and again, we're going to get into this more detailed later about the required elements of the general plan. And then after that page, I know everyone's going to be reading this tonight, is the actual state statute. But just so you have it for your reference, I would love it if everyone read it and checked up on me and made sure that we're paying attention to it, but it is staff's responsibility to make sure that we're meeting these objectives. In your tab 7, you'll have a CD, and it's a CD of the current general plan. We're going to be giving you additional CDs in the future, so there are other spaces, so you can stick those in there later. And then finally, your tab 8 is just a spot for you to put your agendas or anything you collect from the meetings that you want to stick back in there. And as we get past the May 2013 meeting, I'll give you more tabs. And then, of course, we've got a pad of paper for you. So that was a quick run-through. I know you guys are all excited to know why in the world there's plastic laying on the carpet, and you guys are going to find out very, very soon. But just before we move on, is there any questions about what's in your book? I mean, we are going to be going into this in more detail. I just wanted to make sure you kind of knew what was in there. No? Okay.
Okay, so what we want to do now is, before we really start working together as a community is begin to just talk about how you want to communicate. You know, Katie kind of gave you the rules of being on the committee, what's expected of you kind of to be a member. But what I want to ask you now is, instead of us telling you how we expect you to communicate with each other, it'd be great if you told us how you want to communicate with each other, how you want to have conversations about topics, what are the rules of your discourse. And so, you know, you've all heard, for example, I said it before, for example, no idea is a bad idea. That to me would be a rule of discourse. Are there any other, or do you have those ideas? Are there ideas that you have about how to talk with each other when your committee is kind of operating? Go ahead.
Do not interrupt anyone when they're speaking.
So let's say no interruptions. Okay, one of the rules I'm going to make is spelling doesn't count. Like making you write for Santa. Okay, next. Yeah.
No cell phone.
No cell phone. Okay, can I ask maybe if it'd be okay if I modify, put your cell phone on vibrate, and if it rings, go outside. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay. Okay, give me another one.
No No side conversation.
Side conversation. Okay?
Agree to disagree.
Absolutely. Agree to disagree. You want to tell me a little bit more about what you mean when you say that?
There are many times that we're going to have different opinions, and I think in order for us to continue to stay on track and continue to be productive, we need to look at the end result versus try to defend a position. So we get to the point that it's now becoming a debate versus what we're here to do. Let's agree to disagree, and maybe we can just take it offside.
Okay, so that's part of, if I could put something, maybe respecting that we all have different opinions, right? Okay, so I'll put respect for opinions. That's a good one. Handwriting doesn't sound good. Okay, yes.
I would just say if arguments get too long or discussions get too long, respect the chairman. If he wants to move on, we can, not let things draw out for,
Okay, so maybe some
inordinate
respect
times.
for time?
Yes. Keep conversations germane to the subject matter.
Excellent. Okay. This is the one challenge of this word. If I like this one, we'll put it right here. Next. Yes.
Silence means agreement.
Okay. Is everyone comfortable with that? Silence means agreement. So if you have a concern, it's sort of incumbent upon you to voice it. If you don't say anything, we're going to assume you're okay with it. Now everybody's going to be quiet. I need a voice, yes.
Another way to state it may be that we want to encourage everyone to be involved. We respect and value everyone's viewpoints. So don't be silent if you feel the need to say something. Is that okay, Leslie?
Be open to different perspectives.
Excellent.
Don't just shut it down if it's different than your own.
Anybody else have any ideas? Try that so we can sort of see where we're at. Okay.
Leslie, I think in order to make this committee fun to be a part of, even though we're tasked with an important committee to work on, that humor can be a good thing as long as it's not at someone else's expense.
But that take the fun away from it.
There you go.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead.
I guess I would defer to the chairman, but I would suggest it might be helpful to have some way to advise the chairman you want to speak so that he can then recognize people in whatever, perhaps Turner name tags like this, hanging over the side. They don't stand too well, Ted. Well, or some other.
Sure.
Right, but do you, 25, 30 people, do we have to keep our hand up till he recognizes us? If you do something like this or this, he knows you want to speak, but you don't have to hold your hand up.
I think that's a great idea. Since I'm going to end up facilitating a lot of these discussions, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I think if you just take your name tag and do that, put your hand up, but there's like a bazillion people that have to get out. Let's just turn things up. I think that you guys are going to probably wait for each other
Excellent
So let's say turn your name tag if you want to speak. Which that means I'm going to have to lie on my side to read your names.
Or learn our names.
Yeah. Okay. Any other ideas? Go ahead.
The thing is, come prepared. So if there is material that's distributed by Katie or someone in between meetings that we're going to discuss, just peruse it and be comfortable, contributing based on that information.
Ready to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And on that topic, I think that's a great thing that you brought up. Katie's an incredible resource. I've worked with her over the past 6 weeks. She knows so very much. So if you do, as we move through these topics, and some of them are pretty heady and fun stuff, if you have questions, call Katie as your resource. Hey, I want to know more about this, or I'm not really getting this, or why is this important? She's a great person to talk to and is a great resource. So I would encourage you also, as you prepare, to use Katie. Any other ideas?
Sure. From the cheat sheet, seek first to understand, not to be understood. What that relates to is ask questions to seek clarification when you don't understand the meaning of someone's comments. We don't want that to go on and you be lost. So if you're not sure, ask.
Okay, I like that.
Get a clarification.
Ask or ask. Any others from the cheat sheet? We'll give out the cheat sheet. Why don't we how about if you split those up?
Okay.
And then you guys you can all look at them, and if there's a couple more you want to put up there from this cheat sheet, let's put them up. If not, we'll call these our rules. Or not our rules, our guidelines, our discussion guidelines. And then what we'll do is have them typed up, and we'll give them to you so that you can put them in your book. And it's really, I don't think any of us are going to study them, but I think it's good for all of us to just have this discussion so that we know that we really want to have a discussion. We want to move forward in a discussion. You guys are a team, and that's what we want to encourage. So just take a quick look at them, and think we're missing anything?
Yes, the committee was formed to discuss ideas, not debate.
Say one more time.
The committee was formed to discuss ideas and not debate.
You want to get that one up there?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I like the one about avoid editorials.
Okay. All right. The others?
Keep the tone professional.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect. That was the one challenge of this room. That we'd be able to keep tone professional. Any others?
In lieu of my lateness, honor time.
Honor time.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a justification for it, but I won't take time for the meeting to discuss that.
Any others? Okay, well, this is, I think, a really nice kind of set of guidelines, a great way for us to frame our conversation. What we'll do, just to be even a little bit more annoying, is we'll give them to you for your books, but I think we'll also just make a big poster of them and we'll just keep them up here. And so that way, when I facilitate, and, you know, part of my job is to keep you on task and to, you know, push the hard questions and to really get you to talk. And we need to remind ourselves of the rules. We can point to those as we go forward, okay? So I'm going to guess everybody's comfortable with this. Everyone feels that this is a good representation of what we want.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good deal. We're there. Okay, now is for the fun part. This is my favorite part of the meeting. One of the things we wanted to do was give everyone a chance to get to know each other. And I don't know about you, but personally, when you have these icebreaker exercises and they say, oh, tell us something personal about yourself, or I feel sort of imposed upon, because I don't know that I really want to let people know about my personal life yet. But one of the things you guys need to do is start passing out, is work together. And so what we thought we would do is an icebreaker exercise where you could all work together. So I'm going to let Katie pass those out, and then I'm going to, well, I'll tell you about the exercise. So what we've done is, a little bit. So what we've done is we decided to make use of the egg. And we have set on the side of the room some materials. And I told you that Brett is really important. Brett is the egg dropper. And we're going to give you about 12 minutes to come up with a contraption so that when Brett, and we've tested this, the egg does break, stands here as the egg dropper and releases the egg, your contraption stops the egg from breaking. Okay, hence the reason for the plastic. Now, how are you going to do this, you ask? Well, you guys notice you all have candy. Those are your teams. So we've got an M&M's team, I think a Hershey Bars team, a Snickers team, and a Twix team, all right? There's 6 teams. So, and there's some materials there, and you'll notice that Katie wasn't too generous with them. And the reason is you're not only individual teams, but your teams as a committee. And so it's how do you use those materials as teams, but as teams working with each other, and as individual teams to compete for grand prizes, which we're going to keep a secret, and put together your egg contraption. So starting now, you've got about 13 minutes. We'll stop at 20 till questions can come.
How high is the egg dropped from?
Okay, this is the, it's podium, am I right? Well, Brett, come up
He
here.
looks taller than
Let's
you.
get Brett over here. We'll have our egg dropper. Do you want to demonstrate? We'll have him demonstrate with this egg, okay? So you can see the mechanics of the experiment here.
And the council members lie on the floor, correct?
Under the,
Yeah, break it. Yeah, just keep it demonstrate the height so you can judge for your machine or your egg dropping mechanism, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the system. Great. All right, we leave it to you. There's the table of your stuff. It's over behind that, next to that window. Get your teams and create a contraption.
Tony, I hope we got some engineers. M&M. Red M&M.
Two more behind you.